Hello and welcome to the Grandfather's Cave. Today we're going to take a look at the classes that I have made for my reworked version of the Dungeons & Dragons game that I call the Avern Fantasy RPG. All that I discuss in this video I'm going to share in the description of this video in a PDF. So if you are interested, you can go down there and download it. This video is the third in a series of videos where I discuss how I modify Dungeons & Dragons to make a new and exciting game that I call the Avern Fantasy RPG. If you're new to this channel, remember to subscribe and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any episodes in this series. Now let's roll initiative and let's get started. Before we dive into the first class, I want to share some information on how the class entries are structured and how level progression works in this game. To start off, a character only needs 100 experience points to advance a level. When a character has acquired 100 experience points, they need some time to train and recover before they can advance a level. When this happens, the character subtracts 100 experience points from their experience total and add one level in a class they are eligible for to their character. The first thing the player does is to roll a hit die according to the class they had chosen for their character to advance in. When the hit die is rolled, divide the result by 2. That result rounded up is the number of health points the character gains, and that divided number rounded down is the number of stamina points that character gets. In addition, a character may gain additional stamina points if a high enough constitution. After that, the player adds new class features from the level the character has gained, and if the character has reached an odd level, level 1, 3, 5, and so forth, that character also gains a feat. It is important to note that in this game, a character only rolls hit dice for level 1 through 10. From level 11, the character no longer gains health points, but they still gain a stamina bonus that is listed in each class entry. In addition, each class have a set of listed class skills that the character automatically gains, as well as a set of weapon and armor proficiencies. Characters that use weapons or armor with which they are not proficient do so with penalties. And now we come to the part about multiclassing. While multiclassing is entirely optional in the later Dungeons & Dragons systems, it is at the very core of the class system in this game. That is because the classes have been divided into base classes and into specialist classes. The base classes are the Cleric, the Scoundrel, the Warrior, and the Wizard. If a character wants to advance in a specialist class, such as the Bard, the Barbarian, Paladin, the Ranger, the Monk, or the Druid, then they first have to qualify for that class. Qualifying for a specialist class is not difficult, but the player has to make some decisions and take some steps in a certain direction if they want to make sure that their character can become a member of that specialist class. For instance, a player that wants their character to become a druid has to have some divine spellcasting and affinity for nature, and therefore they would usually start their career as clerics. Likewise, if a character wants to become a barbarian, a paladin, or a ranger, they would normally start their career as a warrior and take abilities or feats that in some way qualify them to become a member of one of those specialist classes. But lastly, if you want your character to be a bard, you don't only have to have a background as Scoundrel, but you will also require abilities available only to martial characters and to spellcasters. Thus, to become a bard, you need to be truly versatile. Now let's take a look at the Cleric. Clerics can have any alignment, but they must have an alignment that reflects that of their chosen deity. Aside from their alignment, a Cleric also has to observe the ethos of their deity. The ethos of a deity vary from deity to deity, but there may also be variation in between deities, from Game Master to Game Master and from campaign setting to campaign setting. Make sure to speak with your Game Master about what the ethos your Cleric character must observe to remain in good standing with their god. Clerics roll for stamina and health points with a D8 hit die, and beyond 10th level, they gain +2 stamina points. As you can see on the Cleric's advancement table, Clerics start with a base attack bonus of +0, and this bonus increases by 3 for every 4 levels. Clerics usually have very good saving throws, and their good base saves are Fortitude and Will. Clerics start with the following class skills: Culture, Healing, Mercantile, Mysticism, and Social. And they likewise have proficiency with both weapons and armor. Be more specific, they have proficiency with all simple weapons and the favorite weapon of their deity. You should be aware, however, if you are making a small-sized character, that if you choose a deity with a large two-handed weapon as their favorite weapon, your character will not be able to use that weapon because of the size limitation. In addition, clerics also gain proficiency with light and medium armor, as well as with bucklers, light shields, and heavy shields. Clerics cast divine spells, and wisdom governs the efficacy of their spellcasting. Thus, they use their wisdom modifier whenever they calculate a spell power check. In addition, their wisdom also dictates how many bonus spells they can prepare each day, aside from those allotted to all clerics of their level. The number of spells a cleric can prepare each day is shown on the spell table, and as you can see, a first level cleric can prepare 4 rank 0 spells and 1 rank 1 spell. This number increases, and by 20th level, a cleric can prepare 4 spells from each spell rank, from 0 to 9. Clerics must prepare spells before they cast them. That means that they allocate a certain number of spell slots to their spells, and that is how many times they can cast that spell each day. Once per day, a cleric can spend 1 hour preparing new spells. They do this by meditating and studying their prayer book, and this is usually accomplished each morning. And yes, clerics, they have a prayer book, just like wizards have a spell book. To start the game, they gain a number of rank 0 and rank 1 spells equal to 1d6 plus their wisdom modifier. If they want to acquire more spells later on, they have to acquire these either by scribing them from magical scrolls or prayer books, or from a mentor. In addition, they may gain a number of bonus spells from their domains. Every cleric selects 2 domains at first level, and these domains grant a number of bonus spells from level 1 to 9, as well as a granted power which they usually access at 6th level. Rank 0 level spells for clerics are called orisons. These are minor magics, and the cleric has extensive training using them, and therefore they gain a +4 bonus on spell power checks with these. Clerics also gain the ability to turn or command undead, depending on their alignment. Good aligned clerics, they turn undead, which essentially makes them flee in panic, and evil aligned clerics may subjugate them and force them to do their evil bidding. From 2nd level and at every 2 levels onwards, a cleric also gains the ability to either cause or heal damage when they use the turn or command undead. If they turn undead, they cause damage upon the undead. If they command undead, they may choose to heal the undead when they command them. The amount of damage that they can cause or heal to undead is 1d6 at level 2 and increases by an additional d6 to a maximum of 10d6 at 20th level. At 3rd level, clerics gain access to the Scribe Scroll ability. Using this ability requires uninterrupted work from the cleric and is therefore usually done in between adventures. As you can see, all domains have a number of bonus spells from level 1 to 9. These fit thematically with the theme of the domain. In addition, the domains have so-called granted powers. There are 4 elemental domains: air, earth, fire, and water, and these grant resistance and a 20th level immunity to the energy type associated with the element. Thus, clerics with the air domain gain air resistance, those with the earth domain gain acid resistance, those with the fire domain fire resistance, and those with the water domain cold resistance. There are also 4 alignment domains. These are chaos, evil, good, and law. Clerics with these domains gain the power to imbue their weapons with the alignment of their god. Thus, they may cause their weapon to become chaotic if they have the chaos domain, and from 10th level they would be able to make the weapon anarchic, which causes chaotic damage against their targets. Likewise, clerics with either the evil, good, or law domain can imbue their weapons with the corresponding alignments. Let's take a look at the granted powers for the other domains. Clerics with the animal domain gain the nature pact granted power. Already at 1st level, this power substitutes the cleric's normal turning or command undead ability with the ability to turn animals, that is, to cause them to run away from the cleric. At 6th level, however, a cleric with the animal domains gain wild empathy. Wild empathy will be discussed more thoroughly when we look at the druid in one of the future videos. But basically, wild empathy allows the cleric to communicate with and bond with animals. This way, a cleric with the animal domain can establish a relationship with an animal companion. Clerics with the battle domain gain combat mastery. Combat mastery allows the cleric access to combat feats they don't usually have access to, although only for a limited period of time. Clerics with the creation domain gain the aura of vitality. Aura of vitality protects against fatigue and exhaustion and can suppress the effects of fatigue for a short period of time. Fatigue is very central in the combat rules of this game, since characters risk becoming fatigued whenever they lose all their stamina points, and thus the importance of this ability cannot be understated. Clerics with the darkness domain gain the Eyes of Darkness ability, which for a short period of time allows them to see in absolute darkness, even magical darkness. Clerics with the death domain gain the ability to ward against death. For a short period of time, allies within this area become immune to death effects, energy drain, and effects that cause negative levels. Clerics with the Deception domain gain the sudden move ability, which allows the cleric to reposition themselves behind an enemy if they have been attacked. Clerics with the Destruction domain may use the Destructive Aura, which causes all creatures within the area to sustain additional damage when attacked. Clerics with the Freedom domain gain Freedom's Call, which for a short period of time can protect allies against confusion, grapple, frightened, panic, paralyzed, pinned, and shaken conditions. Clerics with the Healing domain gain the Healer's Blessing at 6th level, which allows them to heal 50% more damage whenever they use a healing spell. Clerics with the Insanity domain gain an Aura of Madness. The Aura of Madness staggers enemies within the area for a short period of time, which means that instead of 2 single actions, they would only be able to make 1 single action each turn. Clerics with the Knowledge domain gain Remote Viewing, which for a short period of time gives them access to clairvoyance and clairaudience. And clerics with the Love domain gain the Charming Smile, which is a free action short-term charm person effect. Clerics with the Luck domain gain Good Fortune. Good Fortune basically allows the cleric to roll checks with advantage a certain number of times per day. And clerics with the Magic domain gain the Dispelling Touch, which allows them to dispel magic with a melee attack. Clerics with the Plant domain gain the Thorns ability at 6th level. This ability causes the ground to sprout thorns and vines that may damage and hinder movement in the area. Clerics with the Protection domain gain the Aura of Protection. This aura gives an armor class bonus to all allies. Clerics with the Strength domain gain the Divine Strength ability, which allows them to increase their strength for a short period of time. Clerics with the Sun domain gain the Aura of Light ability, which generates light as by a daylight spell, thus both illuminating the area around them and possibly causing damage to creatures vulnerable to sunlight. Clerics with the Travel domain gain the Divine Celerity, which increases their base speed, and clerics with the Valor domain gain the Aura of Valor. Allies within an Aura of Valor gain the benefits of a heroism spell. The last domain is the Weather domain, and clerics with it gain access to the Lightning Lord ability. With this ability, the cleric can call down bolts of lightning from the sky to strike enemies in a way that is similar to Call Lightning. The second class we're going to look at in this video is a Scoundrel. Scoundrels can have any alignment, and as clerics they also receive a d8 hit die to determine health points and stamina points at each level. And from level 11 and onwards they also gain +2 stamina point bonus. The class skills for the Scoundrels is Acrobatics, Athletics, Culture, Engineering, Mercantile, Perception, Perform, Social, Stealth, Survival, and Thiefcraft. This package of skills allows them to be versatile both as infiltrators but also in social encounters. Scoundrels are proficient with all simple weapons, the hand crossbow, the sap, the shortbow, and 1 additional martial weapon of their own choice. Scoundrels are proficient with light armor and with bucklers. Just like the cleric, the Scoundrel's attack bonus at 1st level starts as +0 and also increases by 3 for every 4 levels. With regard to saving throws, they are the opposite of clerics. They have poor fortitude and will saves, but have a good reflex save. The Scoundrel does not automatically gain neither sneak attacks nor backstab attacks like the rogue and the thief did. Instead, Scoundrels receive a so-called Scoundrel's Virtue at every level. This way, the player of a Scoundrel character can customize their characters to a very large degree and need not be forced into usual rogue niche. In addition, the Scoundrel also has access to certain Scoundrel virtues that play on the mechanic of the fate points, which will be discussed in detail in a later video. Before we look at the virtues, it is important to note that some of them are marked with an asterisk. These are attack abilities that must be performed within 30 feet of an enemy. That means that they can be used both as melee attacks and as range attacks. And the target must additionally be affected by either blindness, flanking, flat-footed, must be helpless, pinned, or stunned in order to be eligible as targets. The individual Scoundrel's virtues are these: Agile Fighting, which grants the Scoundrel the dodge feat, and then there is Backstab. Backstab, yes, Backstab is basically the good old backstab or sneak attack ability. The Scoundrel can take this virtue a number of times equal to half their level rounded up, and thus they can take it a total of 10 times. Each time they are able to deal an extra 1d6 damage when they attack a vulnerable target as described before. But now we come to one of the aspects that makes the Scoundrel better to both rogues and thieves in my mind. Bewildering Injury allows the Scoundrel to impose a -2 penalty on the armor class of an opponent, and this ability isn't dependent on the target's anatomy in any way. And thus a Scoundrel can choose to backstab an opponent, but could also impose an armor class penalty. Or if they take the bleeding attack, they would be able to cause injuries to their target, which gives them bleed damage. Bleed damage is much stronger in this game than it normally is, because it directly targets health points and bypasses both stamina points and damage reduction, as well as damage absorption. A rogue that takes the combat expert virtue gains combat expertise, and one that takes the combat trick virtue gains a bonus combat feat. In addition, the Scoundrel can take the dedicated hunter virtue. This functions like the ranger's favorite enemy ability and allows the Scoundrel to select one type of enemy against which they have skill bonuses and damage bonuses in combat. And disorienting injury is another attack ability for the Scoundrel. This is not dependent on anatomy either, and allows the rogue to impose an attack penalty on that enemy if they succeed with the attack. So now you can see that the Scoundrel, aside from being able to do deadly sneak attacks and bleeding damage that bypasses armor, can also use a series of different attacks if they learn these virtues to be able to hinder an opponent. This is of course an advantage for the Scoundrel himself, but is also something they can use to support the warriors they fight alongside. A Scoundrel could also choose the Evil Eye of Fate virtue. With this ability, the Scoundrel can spend fate points to force an opponent to reroll an attack. A Scoundrel may also choose the Extreme Luck virtue. The Extreme Luck virtue is something that also plays on the fate mechanics of this game. One of those mechanics is called the Better Luck fate action, which allows a character to spend a fate point in order to modify an attack, skill, ability, or saving throw by a number determined by a roll of their luck die. Which luck die a character uses depends on how high their luck score is. And with the Extreme Luck virtue, the Scoundrel gains the ability to avoid spending a fate point if they roll the maximum value of that luck die. This is a swingy ability that affects every Scoundrel character that uses fate, but actually has a greater potential impact on Scoundrels with a low luck ability. This is an ability that can make a Scoundrel with a low luck score very entertaining to play. In addition, a Scoundrel could also take the Extreme Hustle virtue, which allows them to spend fate to gain an additional action, or they could take the Fast Stealth virtue that allows them to use their stealth skill at full speed. The Fateful action allows them to add a +2 modifier whenever they use the Better Luck fate action discussed before, and the Fickle Heart of Fate allows the Scoundrel to spend a fate point to reroll a d20 roll. The Fortunate Break virtue allows the Scoundrel to subtract the value of his own luck die from an opponent's roll. Hampering Injury is one more of those attack abilities available to the Scoundrel that allows the Scoundrel to reduce the speed of the opponent. Scoundrels that take the hand-to-hand fighting virtue gain the improved unarmed strike feat. Scoundrels with the Ledge Walker virtue can use acrobatic skill to balance on narrow surfaces and slippery surfaces, and can do so at their full speed without becoming flat-footed. The Lucky Mascot virtue allows the Scoundrel to influence an ally's roll with a luck die. With Major Magic, the Scoundrel gains access to rank 1 spells, and with Minor Magic, they gain access to rank 0 spells. The Marksman virtue gives the Scoundrel the point-blank shot feat. Quick Disable allows the Scoundrel to use the engineering skill in half the normal time. Resiliency allows the Scoundrel to avoid death by gaining temporary health points. Scoundrel's Finesse grants the Scoundrel the Weapon Finesse feat. Stand Up allows the Scoundrel to stand up from prone as a free action. A Scoundrel with the Surprise Attack virtue treat an opponent as if they were flat-footed in the first round of combat. With the Terrain Master virtue, a Scoundrel gains one favored terrain as rangers would. Weapon Expertise grants the Scoundrel the Weapon Expertise feat. At 10th level, a Scoundrel gains access to Greater Virtues. These may be selected every time the Scoundrel would be able to select a Scoundrel's virtue. Greater Virtues include Crippling Strike, which adds strength damage to their backstab, or a Dastardly Challenge, which allows the Scoundrel once per day to challenge an opponent. Against a challenged opponent, a Scoundrel adds their presence to attack rolls and their level to damage rolls. The Scoundrel can also take the Finesse Specialist ability, which grants the Scoundrel the Deadly Finesse feat. With Deadly Finesse, the Scoundrel can add their Dexterity modifier to damage instead of strength modifier. They can also select defensive roll. This allows the rogue to make a reflex save in order to avoid damage from an attack that would otherwise kill them. Dispelling Attack allows the Scoundrel to dispel magic whenever they make a backstab attack. The feat Greater Virtue allows the Scoundrel to select a feat of their own choice. Improved Evasion allows the Scoundrel to take half damage even when they fail a reflex saving throw. The Opportunist virtue allows the Scoundrel to make a free melee attack against an opponent who is struck by another character. And lastly, the Slippery Mind virtue allows the Scoundrel a second saving throw against enchantment spells and effects. Aside from selecting from all these scoundrel virtues, all scoundrels also gain trap finding. Trap finding greatly increases a scoundrel's ability to detect and disarm traps, even magical traps. At 2nd level, a scoundrel gains evasion, which allows them to avoid damage entirely whenever they make a reflex save that would halve that damage. At 3rd level, they gain danger sense, which increases their defense against traps and also makes it less likely that they are surprised by enemies. At 6th level, a scoundrel gains the uncanny dodge ability. With this ability, the scoundrel is never flat-footed. At 8th level, a scoundrel gains the improved uncanny dodge ability that protects them from being flanked by all but the most skilled scoundrels. If you make it to 20th level as a scoundrel, you gain the Master of Virtue feature, which allows you to spend 1 fate point to gain an additional use of a scoundrel's virtue or greater virtue. This concludes our look into the first base classes of this game system. Next video I will be discussing the warrior and the wizard. Remember that you can find a link to the information discussed in this video in the description. If you enjoyed the content of this video and found it useful, make sure to like and subscribe to this video and leave a comment. What did you especially like? Or what do you think that I missed? Until next time, keep slaying.